Welcome back to Kicking It Real. We have a really fun guest, as we always do. They're always really good, fun guests. But one of my best friends from early on, we have Al Long. Welcome to Kicking It Real.
I didn't even tell you yet, but I'm drinking a peppermint mocha in honor of you right now.
I do see the mug, and I just assumed coffee. Oh, I did. Well, I got this creamer. It's just like the regular coffee mate, whatever. But it tastes just like a peppermint mocha. Is that from Starbucks or is that
I
homemade?
got a creamer,
Yeah,
homemade.
it doesn't quite hit the same knot in a holiday cup, but it still warms your soul in a similar way, I
Yes,
feel,
in a
but
very deep way.
very
Here in
emotional.
Texas in November where it's 70 outside.
No, the way I just posted a reel too, and it was like, if you would have told me would be drinking a peppermint mocha outside in November in a t-shirt, like I wouldn't have believed you because truly, what an iconic thing to do. But we're gonna get into that anyways. But we've known each other forever. We danced back at the Park District. Oof, days. All the way to Drake versus Lil Wayne concerts, to tailgates in college, and
Oh
moving to
God.
Texas. Like, but way, way, way more in between. We have like a lot to cover. I was telling her before we started recording that like I had to really consolidate because you've done like so many cool things and like pivoted in so many cool ways. And I was like, this is going to be a 5-hour podcast. So we'll just have to do like multiple episodes, obviously,
A little
but
series.
like maybe, yeah, a full hour long series, but maybe can you just give us like a brief background on like
Yeah,
your journey life?
on my journey in life. So yes, Gabby and I met a long time ago. Um, couldn't even tell you the age, but grew up in Schaumburg, Illinois, danced my whole life, went to college for dance, got hip surgery, which we'll get to, moved to Pittsburgh and started teaching Pilates. And Pilates was something I found in college and loved, but, just happened to
Solid.
get certified and start teaching in Pittsburgh. Lived there for 2 years. Honestly, love Pittsburgh. Like, it is one of the most underrated cities
I've never been.
ever. You we should go because it's
Okay.
just so fun and it's a small city. And so with fitness things, as you know, there's only so much growth you can have there. So I moved back to Chicago, which is something I didn't really want to do at all. Like I
I
had
get
no
it.
interest. When I left high school, I was like, I'm never coming back. I'll never live in Schaumburg again. I'll never live in Chicago. I gotta go. And then eventually made my way down to Texas here in Austin. So just a few hours away from you.
I know.
And I still am in the fitness industry. I'm a global education manager for 2 Pilates brands. So I work for Fit House of Brands and we have FS8 and Vora. And I create all of our education. So that's kind of my brief overview.
Brief is a good way to describe that because
Yeah.
there's so much, which is so cool. I mean, I have to like bring up this like the Drake versus Lil Wayne story one more time. Just like one of well, actually we could do that. We were very big concert goers back in the day because we also
We
had
were.
Justin Timberlake. It was my 16th birthday. And
Mhm.
I think that might have been my first concert I went to with a friend, like without my mom accompanying me.
Mm.
But it was my birthday. I did like the Joffrey Ballet Intensive. It was the first day of that. Then we went to dinner. My parents came down to the city. We went to dinner and then they dropped me off at Soldier Field and we were like, let's go. We were crying the whole time, I
Yeah.
think, essentially. But we had a lot of
Yeah.
content and then we did Drake versus Lil Wayne.
And yeah,
Are you still into, I mean, you're still into Drake, obviously. Are you still into like your rap like era? Like
yeah,
that stayed.
that's a constant, I would say.
The constant.
That started in like 2007 and it's not
It's
changed
here.
since.
It's here to
It's
stay.
here.
I mean, same. I like fluctuate a bit as well, but you
Yeah,
know,
I
it's
do love some pop as well, like Ariana Grande, Sabrina Carpenter. I call her Sabby Carp, like Sabi B.
oh my god,
So
where's it going?
I love them. I also have a couple, like I love Halsey, which I feel like came out of
Mm,
left field for me. That didn't feel like it would be someone that I would listen to.
but she's like kind of your energy, I feel, in the best way. Like
Yeah,
very badass. Like I'm here for it. Like I don't, yeah, take anything. Okay,
yeah.
cute. Well, that was wait, really quick also, because in high school you did a lot of like as far as like dance and like extracurriculars, like and before that, because if you listen to the episode with Tara, we did give you a shout out.
Yes.
Because she did come. You're what, 2 years older than me, so she came when I was in 7th grade, and she set our
Mhm.
Adam's Palms routine, which someone should have video archive of that somewhere because that needs
Oh
to be pulled
God.
out. That would be more
I
than iconic.
when I was listening to your episode with Tara, it was a recovered memory. I was like, I blacked that out of my mind. I now remember coming to Adams and like setting the piece with Ariana.
Not grande.
But until I was listening to the episode, completely forgot that happened. And I do think that's how we became closer or like friends.
Yeah, because I remember feeling, like, really cool because I, like, knew you guys because we danced at the same studio, and I think, like, I was probably in the front and, like, you were probably like, "Oh, cool," you're, like, helpful because like, no shade to anyone on the Adams Palms team, but it was a very wide range of talent level. I think some people, like, didn't even really dance outside of that, right? Like, am I
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
right? But that's not really that
And
important.
meanwhile,
Yeah, but
we were
both
all
of
like, we're going to be professional dancers. And we're 12 years old deciding that.
yeah,
So
we were
it
different
was very
breeds.
serious. Yeah.
Very serious for us. But then you did,
Very
like,
serious.
cheer and poms and like, all of them in high school. Like, that was my theme, like,
Yes.
looking through our notes too of, like, you're so good at pivoting in the best way. Um, but we'll get back into that. So she did everything, but then we went to Western.
Everything.
So tell us about majors, why Western, briefly, because college is, like, such a small little chunk of your life.
Small little bubble. Well, if I'm sure you remember that both of us were like somewhere warm. Like we want to be somewhere warm. Neither of us were like, we love the Midwest. And so
Michigan,
I
nonetheless.
really desperately wanted to go to University of Arizona or
Same.
whichever the best dance school is. Like I really wanted to go there in Arizona. And my mom was like, well, listen, I am going to be paying for some parts of your college. And so I will be giving you a 3-hour radius. And as Tara
So
mentioned in her episode, love my mom, and understand why she said that because like it is harder to take a flight than it is to take a 3-hour drive.
for sure.
All of the things. So we had Noelle, our dance teacher, had gone to Western Michigan, and then Kelsey, who's 2 years older than me and was my neighbor, best friend growing up, she was at Western. And so then I was like, well, if I'm not going to Arizona, I'm going to Western.
Wait,
And
recover memory when I went and visited you.
yeah, huh?
Oh my gosh, sorry, keep going.
No, that's okay. That was very fun.
Oh, that's a
Very, very
topic for
fun.
another episode for sure.
Yeah. That's like our fun time topic.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Western, similar to Tara, Western was the only place that I auditioned. My mom made me send applications to other colleges, but I literally, and we went on visits, but I literally told her, I'm like, I'll be going to Western. I'm not going to NIU. Like, I'm not going to U of I. Like, I'll be going to Western. She
That
was
is
like, we're going to go tour Ball State. And I was like, okay, we can.
that is so Al coded. Like, no, actually, thank you, but no, thank you. This is what I'm gonna be doing. Like, also a decision that's not completely in your control, which I love manifesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So went to Western, got into the dance program. Um, and I was going in with the thought that I would be a physical therapist at the end. So physical therapy or like my and to dance, as Megan would love to hear us say, was physical therapy, and that would be later. I had this whole plan where I'd go to Western, get both degrees, exercise science being the second one, and then I'd go to Northwestern's DPT program. At the time, you didn't have to be a doctor of physical therapy, but I was like, I will be a doctor of some sort. Like I know that.
Surely.
Um, and then during my freshman year, we'd had all those first year classes. Like for dance, we had FYP, and then in exercise science, they had something very similar. And they had physical therapists come in because that's the degree that you would go to, whatever. And every single physical therapist was like, we don't actually help people. All we do is insurance. And I was like, huh. So that's not what I
Interesting.
want to do. I loved physical therapy because I'd been injured 100 million times already.
By 18 years old.
And so when the first big one was dislocating my knee, and I loved my physical therapy. Like I learned so much. I remember it was either Christine or Noelle came up to me at a class that this is so crazy to think about. When we would be sick or injured, we'd still come watch class because we wanted to learn the choreo.
Yeah, we can FOMO.
FOMO. And
Also.
so I would be doing my PT at the park district in front of the room while everyone was like learning the choreo.
Wow. We weren't in the same
And
classes at this point, so not a memory for me, but I believe it.
yeah, that would have been my sophomore year of high school. So
Yeah.
anyway, one of them came up to me and they're like, great job doing your physical therapy. Like, we're really impressed you're doing it. And me being the like people pleaser, I was like, well, of course I'm doing it. My physical therapist told me to do it.
Oh, yeah, because we do everything we're told, we don't get in trouble, we do everything that also need to dissect that one day too, because that's not,
Yeah.
like, that's an us, not just me and you, but that's, like, not every dancer is, like, that wired, so anyways,
It
continue.
So that sparked my desire to go to physical therapy because I just like saw the benefit of movement and how it would affect my dancing. Everything always came back to dance. Nothing was ever outside of it.
So when you
And
first started, was it like it was always like you wanted to perform or do something in the dance world, and then after that, go into your physical therapy, whatever that okay, clarifying.
yeah,
Great, continue.
yes. Yeah, I also think I thought that I could do everything at once also because I did everything
Mhm.
at once all my life. So I was like, I could be a physical therapist and also dance an aside like Noelle, you know?
Yeah, we just realized that because in high school, it feels like you're doing literally everything, which I think I reflect back on often, where it's like you woke up, you went to practice before school, you went to after school practice, you went to dance class, and you came home and did all your homework. Like, that's just not
Yeah.
realistic for real life when you have actual other responsibilities that take up your time.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah. I
misleading.
And that's why all of our friends are from dance because that's where we
Sure.
were, you
No,
know? I
100%.
didn't have time to hang out with people. Like, you were my school friend or you were my dance friend, and my dance friends were my friends. And my school friends, we were friends too, but, like, I wasn't going to parties. I was dancing. I was doing my homework. Like, I was going to PT. I wasn't, like, hanging out.
She was doing her PT exercises on a Friday night, okay? Like, for sure. No, I so you did you end up sticking with the exercise science major then, or did you drop it after that?
I dropped it not after that. At first I pivoted to 2 other majors at some point in my career. Out Dance stayed. It was exercise science, and then there was one that was basically corporate wellness,
I remember this.
which is so interesting where I am now, but, like, basically, you'd be the person to
Yep.
build programs for people at corporations so that they would not
Oh,
sit in their desks for 8 hours a day.
I do remember this now. Yep, it's
Yeah.
coming back.
I loved that degree. I loved those classes.
A little bit of
But then
foreshadowing.
a little bit of foreshadowing,
Yeah.
definitely. And it was the middle of my junior year. So I'm like, the light is at the end of the tunnel. And I realized that I would either have to I was doing like 21 credits a semester to try and finish in 4 years. And I was going to have to keep doing that. And at this point, I was like, I just want to dance while I can because I can go back to school.
And that's on top
School
of
will always be there.
rehearsals for school, like because those don't even count in your credits, like, for different shows or pieces or whatever, rehearsals outside of class time, so just to paint that picture for everyone.
Yeah. I remember there was a couple semesters where I had to get approved to take my credit load.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's
That's
so brain.
insane.
Where then there was me and I did my one major and was like, "Okay, this is, like, only 80 credits to graduate." I
But you did your one major in 3 years. So
Yeah,
you were
but
doing the same thing as me, just in
yeah, different way, for sure. Another
different
big
way.
part of you, though, like, when I think of you in college is Orchesis, which at Western there's, Orchesis Dance Society, and so actually, I'm gonna let you talk a little bit more about it because she was president, and I feel
President.
like, first of all, that I'm just really getting transported a lot already, but
Mhm.
also, I feel like that role, like, set you up for so many other things that came to follow without you probably realizing it in the moment. So what was that role like? Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Orchesis, like getting into Orchesis, it's a student run organization, SRO at Western, and we put on our own showcase. So the president helps to organize everything about the performance, everything about the showcase. Each choreographer who wants to be an Orchesis like auditions their own pieces. They rehearse a certain amount of it. Sometimes it's not finished, sometimes it is. And then there's adjudications to get each piece into the Orchesis concert. Then Orchesis Dance Society, as the committee, goes through deliberations and decides. I'm like reacting to this internally. Decides what pieces are going in, and then we put on the whole show. So you have a stage crew and you do light design and you're creating the pamphlets? What are those called?
The programs.
Programs, thank you. And the marketing materials and fundraising because you have to fundraise to put this on. And like, so the president oversees all of that. And I feel like my life up until college prepped me for that because I always stepped into leadership roles
Yeah.
for as long as I can remember. Like in high school, I think I was in a women in leadership class, which is crazy.
Yeah.
I think they ran it one semester. Like, I don't even know how that happened.
They're like, "It was just
Um,
Al in the class, no one else, so we
it
had to
was just
cancel
me
it."
and Miss Swinky. I think she ran it.
I love it.
Um, and that yeah, so that was Orchesis, and I loved it. It was very interesting to balance the student dynamics. That was the hardest part of it, of being I like rules. I like to follow rules. I expect other people also follow rules. And so that was easy for me. But then when students maybe weren't the same as me because they also realized that we were 18 to 22 years old and we should have a life outside of dance. And I was like, that's a crazy thought. Um, it was hard to navigate that socially.
It's so interesting because I can put myself back in that time frame too, and obviously, like, knowing you it's not like I was beating you for the first time in college, and I feel like I was one of those people that was not that I wasn't following rules, but I was, like,
Mhm.
more, "Oh, a life outside of dance." Like, I wanna, like, experience life where I, like, leaned away from the dance structure, but then, like, interesting to see but I feel like your senior year, you finally, like, let loose a little bit. You're like, "Wait, okay. I can, like,
Yeah.
socialize a little bit and, like, do this," but I do remember that dynamic of, like, trying to fight that because you have some people who are like, "Don't care about rules, don't care about anything, I'm gonna do what I want," and then there's people like, "Okay, yes, like, I'm gonna be at class early, I'm gonna do everything perfect, I'm gonna be at every audition," and I mean, for me, I feel like I fell somewhere in the middle of that, but, like, it is an interesting dynamic that I feel like people don't talk about a lot, especially when you're at that age because it's so
Mhm.
confusing. When you're 18 years old living by yourself for the first time, like, it's a lot.
And you're just, like, trying to do the best you can. Everyone was just trying to do the best they could in whatever that was, and if I were to go back to college now, like, 1, I would never change my experience. I think it led me to where I am, but if I were me as today entering college, I would not be as serious as I was back then. Because what I think you did really well and continue to do really well is, like, when you're working hard, and then when you're not, you are doing other things, like you're socializing, you're making
Yeah.
friends, you're going on a walk, you're hanging out with your husband, like whatever it is, you're able to draw that hard line where every decision I made related to dance.
Um,
So if I was dating someone, how was that going to affect dance? If friends wanted to go out to drink, how would that affect my rehearsal on Sunday?
that's
You know?
so that I mean, and there is good in that, but, yeah, finding that balance that works for you because I could sit and say the same thing of, like, "Oh, sometimes I wish I thought" but again, like, I don't wanna change anything about anything in my life, but, yeah, it's
Yeah.
that finding what works for you, but I also think that's what college undergrad is a good place to do that, where you
Yeah.
can have that freedom and being nice to yourself of like, "Okay, this is how I lived, and now I wanna try this and see what works best." Especially as an adult, I'm still trying to find, like, how I function the best. It's ever going. But moving on from Western,
Yeah.
you, like, love school. Just kidding, but
I love
kinda.
school. I
So,
do love school.
how long did you know you wanted to go to grad school? Like, when did you know that you wanted to do that?
I think in elementary school, like
Okay.
I was like, I will have a PhD, and I still feel that way. But like, I thought that in elementary school.
That's iconic.
So I always knew I was going to go to grad school. It was like the sun shines and the sky's blue, and Allison will go to grad school.
And great, and she will do everything also,
Yeah.
and she will go to Western.
Yeah. Apparently.
Strong-willed. Okay, so you knew that.
But
So, yeah, when did you apply for it then?
well, I've been to 2 grad schools. At Western, as you remember, my last quarter of college, I had been injured on and off all of college, and that's a different topic of conversation, but
Oh,
I could all of a sudden, like, not sleep without being in pain. I couldn't walk. I couldn't stand on a leg. I couldn't stand on my left leg and, like, undo my right leg. It hurt so bad to do anything in external rotation, and then it was in Whitney Moncrief's modern class. She had given me a compliment, which is very hard to come by, and I felt my hip give out, and I was like, "I'm in parallel in modern class. The way your body is supposed to feel the best ever, this is bad," and I had to go foam roll because I was in so much pain,
Whitney broke your
and
leg.
Whitney
Just
broke my
kidding.
leg. No. So I was going to the doctor, I was getting all of these tests during my 2nd semester, and I ended up with a labrum tear in my left hip. So that changed the end of college for me. And I remember my mom came up when I got the diagnosis because that's pretty detrimental for a dance career, right? And
Uh,
I'm literally 6 weeks from graduation, like, with my BFA in dance. It was not a good mental time for me. And I told her, I was like, "I'm gonna go to grad school." And she was like, "Well, blah, blah." I said, "What am I gonna do, mom? Like, I am gonna lose my mind if I have to sit for 7 months
just wait.
in this recovery." And like, I've never gone that long without dance. I was scared. I was like, "I can't live in Chicago. It'll be too close to home for dance," you
Yeah.
know? And,
Yeah.
so I applied to a college in Pittsburgh. That's how I got to Pittsburgh with the master's, and it was a sports arts and entertainment management MBA program. I thought at the time, and for most of my life, I was like, "I'm gonna be the artistic director of a dance company." At that point in my career, I thought that I would manage, like, I'll use the Lovables as an example, right? A professional dance team for a professional sports team.
Mm,
I wanted to, like, make my way into that space because it felt connected to dance. It felt like I could have impact. It felt very yes and to what I'd been doing.
yeah.
Um, I ended up hating the program.
Awesome.
So I hated the program because it was too easy compared to my undergrad, and it felt like it wasn't worth my money, which
That's
is fair.
so wild, like, to think that too, because for obvious rea I don't even need to explain that. That's so
Yeah.
wild.
Like, our marketing class, we would come in and watch YouTube videos and then talk about the marketing, like YouTube videos of the commercial, and then we'd talk about the commercial, but there wasn't any.
Like,
I
application.
couldn't even tell what we talked about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just like
Like, we
we're
would
having
talk about our opinion of it.
yeah, where you're like, "Okay, I know I have an opinion, but, like, what is the right opinion?" Not even the right opinion, but, like, what am I supposed to be looking for? Like, what is effective? What is not? Like, I feel like I've read a book that gives me more
Yeah.
information on marketing than that.
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
One of the classes, I couldn't tell you which one, we had, like, final presentations, and people were reading off of Post-it notes sitting at their desk for their final presentation. It
Uh,
was insane. It was the first year of this grad program or the second year or something, so I think they were figuring it out, but I just wasn't gonna pay for them to figure it out and, like, test it out on me.
yeah, and also, I think how you do a presentation in school it's not new. That seems like you
Wild.
usually yeah, that's so weird. Okay, so we didn't
Yeah.
like that, but that's also where I feel like a lot of other aspects of your now career kind of like were born there as well
Yeah.
at the same time.
So it was the fall semester of school and a million jobs. And then graduated PT. I had decided not to go back for the spring semester for that major or that program. And I decided to do my comprehensive Pilates certification instead because, like, back to when physical therapists were saying we don't help people, all we do is insurance. I had already taken or like been taking conditioning for dancers, and I knew that I loved the reformer, and I was like, well, the reformer is physical therapy. Like,
Mhm.
I'm using it exactly the same way I did in my PT. So that means that I can implement my knowledge here.
Yeah,
And the professor for us at Western, Carolyn, who taught that class, like, I just connected with her. Like, we just felt she was a safe person for me.
same wavelength almost.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I knew that I was going to get my certification. I thought my retirement would be like 40,
Mhm.
not like 22.
For sure.
So I started my comprehensive certification. I signed up for it at the end of January, beginning of February. By May, I was an apprentice, which means I'd completed over half of my hours. So over 250. And then by October, I was tested out and certified and like switched full time into the fitness industry.
And you got like the real Pilates certification. I see so much
Yeah.
tangent on like TikTok about people are upset about as they should be about like all the fitness, but we'll get into this, all the fitness and like lack of certifications and all
Yeah.
of that. So like you like did the work and know what you're talking about, which also, I mean, even your dance background, I'm sure, I mean, at least for me too, it completely changes how I'm able to approach being a fitness instructor, which is really cool how it like all comes together. So you
Yeah.
are certified in Pilates. So you are still in Pittsburgh, no longer in school, Pilates full time. So what did that
Yes.
look like on like a day to day then?
Well, yeah. So I was also office managing a dance studio and teaching dance,
Mm,
of
of
course,
course.
because I can't do one thing at a time.
Correct.
Um, so when I started teaching, I was teaching the like 5:30 a.m. The other side note of this is when I first started teaching, you don't get paid a lot when you're an apprentice. It was like maybe $20 a class. So I obviously couldn't make the jump right away.
Right.
And I had a full-time skilled trade staff recruiter job, which is insane
What does
to
that
think
even
about.
mean?
I literally would recruit people to like go be HVAC technicians or like I know way too much about skilled trades
Wow.
for only working in it for 11 months. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Very iconic. Okay.
So I was doing that office job. It was
Was that in
when I
person?
first started teaching. Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, okay, even worse. Alright.
And it was like a 5-person honestly, I loved that job, like, it was interesting dynamics to navigate for the first time, like, outside of a dance world, and
Yeah,
they all married with kids who were, like, closer in age to me than I was to them, aside from one person who worked at the office.
awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
So it
easier
was,
to
like,
connect with older people
interesting.
anyway.
It really was. It really was. So I started teaching the 5:30 AMs is my what I'm getting to, right? So
Yeah.
I also quickly learned that if I did not work out first before I taught, I was a complete and total bitch. Like I was a
Oh,
terrible teacher. I would be like, feet in Pilates V, feet in Pilates V, feet in Pilates V. Like I would take it out on my students, and that was not the right thing to do. So I would get up at
no.
4 AM, 4:30 AM and work out before I would go teach. Then I would go teach a 5:30, 6:30, 7:30 class block to be done by 8:20 to drive to the skilled trade staff recruiter job, which I would get there probably at 8:45. It might have been only 6:30, 7:30 because I think I started at 7:45. And then I'd be there from 7:45 till 3:30, and then I would drive to the dance studio. And all of these things, they were all within like 3-minute drives of each other because I intentionally did that, of course.
Of course, she planned.
Drive to the dance studio and teach classes all day, do the office management stuff. Like that was collecting payments, helping schedule. Like if we were in the regular season, it wasn't as much admin, but like as we came up to recital in summer, of course, there was more. And God, I don't even remember how many classes I taught.
It
I
sounds
taught
like
a
you
lot.
really missed the high school life. You
It sounds
missed
like I never left it.
no, but, like, mentally you left, but, like, your physical, like, going to everything, you just really liked doing everything all the time. Okay,
I
awesome.
did. Yeah. I also didn't really know people in Pittsburgh for a little bit. So it was like, what else to do?
Just
I didn't
work.
know anyone in the city when I moved there. Yeah.
'Cause how long
So
did you end up being there? Were you in Pittsburgh for?
just under 2 years,
This
like
is
11 months.
so much to do, like, in a 2-year span, like, you've done so many things already. Would
And this
you
was like 6 months in.
so y would you if you could go back, because it's a very chaotic schedule and not a social life, if you had to do it again, obviously you would never change anything about your past, but, like, what would
Yeah.
maybe be something that would be a little more sustainable, do you think? Because, I mean, it's real, right? You have to work your way up to make more money, and it sounds like you kinda knew you wanted to be in fitness, which is funny because I think back to even, like, when we were in high school, as you were speaking, it was making me think about how really, like, working out fitness has truly been so, like, integrated in who you are because you're the one who got me into working out. Like, I that whole cross training thing, that was never something
Yes.
that was ever on my mind, and I don't think just and no fault to any dance teacher because I don't think that was as big of a thing as it is however many years later, I don't even wanna say, but
Yeah.
a long time, like, now that's more of a standard as part of, like, a dance training progress where we did do strengthening, like, things, but it was always just such a big part of you that I learned.
Yeah.
So, is there anything, like, that you could would have maybe done differently to still survive because you had to make money, but
I, one, did not understand what rent, like what good rent was, right?
sure.
So I moved into an apartment and I was like $1,000 a month, which now I'm like, God, what I would give to pay $1,000 a month for
Yeah,
rent. But at the time, obviously that was a lot of money, but I was like, I'll make it work. So the first thing being, I probably would have sacrificed my apartment a little bit more because the second place I had in Pittsburgh, we paid $500 a month in rent. But like
no.
there were places that I could have picked, you know? But honestly, once I let go of the skilled trade staffing job, like once I was financially in a place where I could let go of that, everything was awesome. Like I genuinely loved getting up, working at the studio, at the Pilates studio, like teaching classes. I also did sales associate stuff. So I was like making calls. The women that I worked with at that job, we were all so close. There was a period of 6 months, or I think, where we didn't have a manager. And so we all were kind of managing it, of course.
Of course.
Um, but I learned so much about how to run a studio
Yeah, there's so much
in the
hands-on.
fitness world. And one thing that I think about the dance world is we want it to be accessible for everybody. And I love that about dance. But dance could be a business like fitness is. It's just that we're so empathetic as dancers that it's kind of hard to.
Yeah. That's so real.
And that was the first time I learned that was working at the Pilates studio. And I could see the crossover of like my boss at the dance studio, Amy, who I love that woman. She taught me so much. She is such a hard worker. She really did take me under her wing in a very big way, and I could start to identify, like, Amy has such a big heart for everybody, such a big heart that she would let it affect her business, or, like, she wouldn't step out when she needed to step out as owner or wanted to because she wanted it done right and well by everybody, which
Yeah.
is great, but we often do this as dancers. We often put ourselves in these places where we're working to burn out, we're working so many hours because we care so much.
Because we do things out of passion, and our self-worth is so closely tied to our professional work, whereas, like, a lot of people can go to work and do their work and, like, let it literally, the whole, like, leave it at the door, but for us, it was leave your personal issues at the door, come into the dance studio, but for most people, it's
Yeah,
leave your work at the door and then be a human, so it's hard to, like, rewire how you approach things and how you have that relationship with dance, especially when
yeah.
it's your business, because I certainly could never.
I mean,
Certainly.
yeah, you've got bills to pay, you've got staff to pay, like, you've got so much riding on that business, and it was a very interesting time for me to, like, see how both could work similarly and so different. Um, I I genuinely don't know if I would even change it if I went back now, because also that first until I got my certification, so I moved to Pittsburgh in August and did that semester, and January is February when I started my certification. Those 6-ish, 7 months of my life were the first time that I wasn't responsible for anything really. I just had to get myself to a job from 7 to 3 and, like, physical therapy.
Which is so different from you being in leadership roles your whole entire life, which in a different way, obviously, you still had responsibility and were a
Y
leader, but not, the whole Orchestra Dance Society falling on your shoulders.
Yeah, like, I was an office manager of the dance studio still, but I was still learning it.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just remember, like, that social time in my life, and I was going through so much emotionally too and, like, personally. It was the only time in my life I probably drank as much as I did. I would go out to bars all the time, like, that's very much not something that is, like, in my inner world as often
Do you
throughout
think
my
that
life.
could have been a little bit of you not doing that as much in college?
100%. 100%. I was like, "Okay, I mean, what else am I gonna do?" Also because I wasn't processing what I was going through.
Yeah. Well,
So I
because
would just be like, "Well, I'm gonna go drink."
you weren't dancing because you couldn't dance. Once you were, quote, unquote, "recovered" or, like, cleared to dance, was that something that was still on your radar, or were you kind of focused on the business, the fitness part of dance?
It was. So I danced for 2 companies when I was in Pittsburgh. One was Dance, which is it was a small company. We did a couple gigs. There were, like, literally 4 of us, and Heidi is the owner of it, and that was my first and only, like, professional I got paid to dance job, and I think that I just really wanted to check that box.
For sure.
I loved doing it because of the people,
Mhm.
but it didn't fill my cup in the same way that dance once had.
That's interesting. Yeah, I can relate to that for sure, and it's because little Al wanted you to do that, so you had to check it off for her,
Yeah.
you
I
know?
had to I had to be the whatever percentage of dancers that actually make it professionally,
Yeah.
like, that ego part.
No, it's so much of it is ego too, because when I reflect back on things, like, I mean, I need to do a whole episode on it, because I think there's this weird misconception in the dance world about, if you're not live, sleep, breathing dance, then you're not a real dancer. Like, if you won't, like, give your life up to figure out how you wanna dance professionally or dance in whatever capacity, then, like, you don't really love it, where it's okay to be like, "Oh, you have to, like, know what you don't want either." Right?
Yes.
And for me, I remember I wouldn't also change anything, but going into school for dance, I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's what I know. That's what I'm best at." Like, that's literally all I know, versus
Mhm.
having that exposure to other things that, like, I
Yeah.
didn't know what business was. I didn't know what anything was. Like, what, you can be a policeman, you can be a teacher, like, that's all you know. Like, I don't know what
Yeah.
my dad does. He does computer things. Like, I
Yeah, like,
don't know
I
what
call
else
my
there
mom
is.
at work.
Yeah, she's just there working. So step away.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so it's
Good
interesting,
job.
like, okay, good. So, you did the company and then you're like, I don't know." We're gonna
Yeah.
there's more to go into this. So we're gonna push past Pittsburgh. We move
Yeah.
back to Chicago. Rip.
Yeah.
Not actually though, but I'm sure it was so different. How old, like how or not how old, but like how many years had it been since you were 18, like in Schaumburg?
6.
So that's like a good amount of time to
Yeah.
be like, okay, maybe like let's give it another
And
try.
even then even then, I moved in with my grandma, like,
Mhm.
right at the city limits of Chicago. I didn't go back to Schaumburg because I was like, scary,"
Can't do it. And
you know?
also, like, just to if you don't know Schaumburg and you're listening to this, like, it's actually quite lovely. It's a nice place to
It is.
live, but I think that's the problem is, like, for a lot of people just stay there, and there's nothing wrong with that, but, like, we are just wired differently to where I'm like, gotta we just wanted to grow. I feel like and I'm sure that's for any hometown, like, sometimes there's this feeling of, like, wait, that like, I wanna experience new things. I wanna be able to grow past what I know. So anyways,
Yeah.
you move in with your
Yeah.
grandma.
I'll also say that this is a whole other episode we could do, but I didn't have a great time growing up. Like, I was very privileged and all of that, but I had a really hard time socially, and so that was a big part of why I didn't wanna go back to Schaumburg 'cause, like, I didn't wanna run into people that, like, made me hate myself, you know?
No, I do.
I'd worked and moved past that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, moving with my grandma, I had started to not really think dance was it, but I was also not really ready to let go fully, and so, like, we auditioned for Lovables together,
Which
which
also
is
reading this
so
note,
crazy.
I also unlocked that. Like, I forgot about that whole experience, which what an experience that
Same.
was.
What an experience that was.
'Cause I was like 1 second away. I was so close.
You were right there.
I made it to the last day, and then they said and I remember going into that last day too, and I was like, "I think I'm gonna book this," because I think with the math,
I thought you were going to too.
there was and, like, the people that were left, that was the amount for a full team, but we didn't know that there were, like, people doing, like, video submissions, like, behind the scenes, so there were people they were still
Yeah.
considering. So then when I got cut, I was like, "Oh, man." But, I mean, I was
Yeah.
more upset. I think it's expectation is everything. So I was like, "I'm about to book this. This is so cool." And, again, this episode is not about me, but that would have completely changed the trajectory of my life, so I'm so happy I did not. Like,
100%.
in
And
a
you went into that
crazy
audition as, like, a practice like, I might just audition for this for fun, kind
Oh,
of.
for 100%. Like, I did
Yeah.
some prep, like, I did a little bit of prep because I was like, "I'm not really a hip hop dancer by nature," but I took the hip
Mhm.
hop classes and I was like, "Yeah, this would be fun." Like, that's how
Yeah.
yeah. But we did that
Um,
together too,
we did that,
because that would have
which
really tied into your original, like, being an artistic I don't know, or coach. I don't even know what you
yeah.
call them for that, but, being in charge of a dance team for a sport team.
And that was still kind of where my headset was. Like, my mindset was still like, I love Pilates. I think I could be great in management there, but, like, I still want to go into this route where, like, I manage the Lovables. Like, that was in my head still a goal.
Yeah.
I didn't make the Lovables. I got introduced to Puzzle Box Dance Studio, which was the most welcoming, accepting, celebratory place for dance that I had truly ever been a part of. Like, I remember walking in to one of my first mat classes and people were, like, applauding others who got solos. And
Wow.
now that's such a normal part of my life. Not that I'm not able to go to Puzzle because I live in Austin and it's in Chicago, but when I was just there for our staff party because 'cause I'm still managing it.
Of
But
course.
that first class, I'll never forget because I was like, people are applauding for other people getting called out for doing well, and I had never experienced that in the dance world. I had experienced people being like, "Oh, you did great, like, great job," but it wasn't this, like, "Oh," I'm not gonna scream into this mic, but clapping, round of applause, like, screaming, and, like, after class being like, "Oh my god, you crushed that. I love this dynamic that you did," and blah, 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 and I was like, "Oh my god, dance can be, like, inclusive and welcoming."
And, like, genuinely clapping.
Genuinely. And even now that I haven't been dancing at the studio or dancing in years, I go back and all of them are like, you look like you're loving Austin, like, your job looks great, High Rocks looked amazing." Like, they still applaud you in these ways. There's zero judgment in that space, and I do find that that's very hard to find in dance.
Yeah. That's a
Um,
really cool I mean it's there's been, I think, with social media, just such a, like, cutthroat, like, what tricks can you do? Like, who's getting featured in what? And, like,
yes.
it's already such a tough mental headspace to be in as a dancer because you're staring at yourself and your peers in a mirror for hours a day. So then you add, like, the highlight reel aspect of it. It's just, like, a very,
Insane.
like, tricky headspace to navigate for sure. So that's such a
Yeah.
cool community to be able to be a part of when you can find one like that.
Yeah. And it really healed me. Like it healed inner parts of me that I didn't know I needed healing yet, I guess. And it highlighted to me, and like hindsight is 2020, right? That for me, my love of dance, of course, is for the artistry, but it really was about the movement. Like it was about the cross training. It was about being and improving and getting sharper and getting that triple pirouette. Like puzzle, not that we do triple pirouettes a puzzle, but like puzzle showed and I had been learning that since Pittsburgh, but that dance for me wasn't really about dance, it was about movement. And that's how then I was like, "Oh my god, that's why I love Pilates. That's why I love teaching fitness. That's why this is my thing," because it was so connected.
It's so cool to see though how that was again always the center and that was always like where you were supposed to go. But like
Mhm.
it's so funny. It feels like to me you were the universe is trying to give you signs like this is for you. This is for you. Like let me literally like mess up your hip so you can understand. But you're like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna try something else really quick. And they're like, okay, we're gonna pull you like it just kept pulling you back though. It's like, okay, you try that, that's cute,
Yeah.
but now come back. Like this is what is actually for you. And like I'm sure that feeling is like so it's like I have like goosebumps. It's like visceral of like, oh, wait a minute, when it starts to kind of line up and you see the why
Mhm.
behind things, I think is so cool.
And like thinking what you said about me getting you into cross training, Noelle's who got me into it, but I don't even know if she knows this because at the Park District, we could see the track of the gym where we would eat
Yes.
lunch, dinner, whatever. And I remember it was before she had graduated Western, I think. Like, I think she was home for the summer and it was
No.
summer dance. And so and now I understand maybe why she was like adamantly in the gym all the time, but like she was working out in the window where I could see her. She
Okay.
was standing on a Bosu ball doing something like, cross training.
Yeah.
And I went home that day and I was like, I really want to go to the gym, mom. I want a personal trainer. And we looked up how old you had to be. I was the correct age. She got me a personal trainer and that's how I started going to the gym.
Wow.
It was because I saw Noelle in
That's
the
so
Park
cool.
District gym.
Yeah. Oh, shout out Noelle. I'm sure she'll listen to
Yeah.
this. We got to have her on. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's cool to see like all the inner workings. And I love that because it's like you don't really know what kind of ripple effect you're having on certain people. Like, I'm sure, like, she was literally just working out. Like, she did not it's not
She
like,
had
she's
no
like, "Let
idea
me
I was
work out
watching
to
her.
inspire Al right now." Like, I'm gonna put her on
Right.
the right path. Like, it's so cool to see how you can so many things you do are affecting people in ways you don't even know, which is so cool. So you got to do that. So you was
Yes.
it was probably in conjunction then, right, with, like, Lovables maybe not working out and then finding puzzle, and you're like, "Okay, so you're still doing Pilates at this point, or are you just,
Still doing
okay,
Pilates.
so
Still doing Pilates. I was teaching for multiple franchise owners. Like I think at one point I was teaching 35 classes a week.
excuse me?"
Mhm.
Oh, okay, I hope you were making at least more than $20 a class,
I
but
was.
okay,
I was
awesome,
making
but
more than $20.
still, I think people don't understand, the actual energy that goes into teaching dance or fitness because you're prepping and it's less even about Pilates is very similar to obviously I teach Pure Barre and it's less like I'm not doing the workout, instructing and teaching, but on top of that, you're like it's not that it's fake, but you're motivating
Performing.
people, you're performing. Like it's the same idea as dance. You walk in, if you're having a bad day, you leave that at the door because your job starts when you walk in. You walk in, you're excited, you're there. Like people don't want like I mean, within reason, people don't they're not coming to hear about your things happening. They're there
No.
to get a good workout and feel good about themselves. Like that's what you're selling to people and it's draining sometimes. And
And you're showing up 15, 20 minutes before your class and
yeah,
you're cleaning up 15, 20 minutes after,
it,
maybe 30.
and so third because when I was in New York, I was at the max because I was working because I needed to pay to live and it was
Yeah.
22 classes. So 35, I just
35 was
simply
insane.
cannot wrap my head around that because I was drowning at 22.
And you're also class planning. Like it's
Yeah.
the work that teaching a class is not only in the studio, it's the time to prep
Mhm.
for those classes.
So you're teaching 35 classes a week. Are you doing anything else fitness wise or what else like did the other aspects of your life look like at this point?
So I was really angling. I was a work study receptionist at Puzzle. So I had just started working the desk to get free classes there, always trying to get
Wow.
the perks, right? And I was really still trying to get into a lead instructor role. That's what I wanted for the Pilates businesses I was working for. I wanted to get into management. I saw that fortunately, teaching was something that came so natural to me, probably from dance. Teaching came so naturally to me, likely from dance and like the element of performing we were talking about, but also because I had such a love for movement, it didn't come naturally in my body. Like I had to work hard to move well. So I was able to articulate to people where you should be feeling things and how to feel them because it took me time to discover that. So,
Mhm.
and I knew that other teachers struggled with that. So I wanted to get into this role to start doing evals. Now, then the world shut down. When the world shut down, I like moved back. I was still living with my grandma at the time. We moved back to Schaumburg in with my parents and my brother.
You
So
came
the 5 of us in a
back.
house. I
Oh,
came back for
man.
3 months. Yeah.
3
It was
months? Oh, that's not
honestly
bad.
not that bad.
No.
I honestly, like, loved that time with my family. Like, it was healing in some ways. I was teaching then only 10 classes a week virtually. I never was without a paycheck. I was very, very fortunate. And I got my first lead role as we were opening back up in the world. So I went through an
Wow.
interview. I got a lead instructor role of 3 studios that were near where I lived with my grandma. I'd already been teaching at them for a while, and I was so excited.
Do you think that that was because of how you showed up during COVID? Like, because I think a lot of people, it was easy to be like, "Eh." Like, you could have been like, "I'm living with my parents. I have no bills right now, and I'm gonna just, like, coast and chill." But
Yeah,
like, you were like, because 10 doesn't
that's
sound
so
like a
true. I
lot,
didn't
but
think about
there's
that.
just not there weren't opportunities to like, that is actually I can't even believe you got 10 classes to teach a week because it was just, a
Yeah.
time where especially because for at least with where I was teaching, it was like, "Okay, we'll teach 1 live class a day, and then there's a recording." So we don't even you know what I mean? Like, you didn't even need
Yeah, so interesting, the differences.
yeah, but, like, you could have
Well,
just not showed up and I don't know, maybe it kept you on the radar.
yeah, probably, honestly, and I think that I was already in conversation with that franchise owner about the role, but it was the 2nd studio that she was opening or 3rd studio she was opening, and they had a lead, but kinda not really like, really hadn't worked out in the past, so she was hesitant to have one,
Mhm.
um, and then there was no need until we were coming back up, and this is what it was. The studio that I had been discussing with her being the lead instructor for was supposed to open, like, March 20th. The
Of
world shut down, so the
2020.
studio didn't really open. Yes.
Uh,
So then it was like we were coming back, the studio was gonna open, and they needed a lead. I'd already kind of started those conversations, but yeah, probably largely influenced that decision to, like, take over more of a full 3 studio role than just a 1 studio role
yeah.
at the time because of how I
Before
showed up.
I wanna this is kind of getting ahead a little bit, but you mentioned about leads not working out, lead instructors at fitness studios, and now, again, I'm pushing forward a little bit, but now you are
Mhm.
in a role where, you're helping build those type of people and hiring those types of people, and I have never owned a studio, but I have also been a lead instructor at multiple studios, and that is not an original feeling of leads not working out. So, what do you, with your experience, what do you think that could look like to where it does start working out, or maybe why it doesn't work out with so many lead instructors?
Yeah. I think there's a couple different reasons for that. One of them is that the lead instructor role is typically the only role that a business owner has never done because largely, and I'm not sure about, the Pure Barre
Sure.
franchising,
Yeah.
but largely the franchise owners that I worked for, with the exception to one, were not Pilates instructors.
Mhm.
They maybe got certified and taught once they owned, but that wasn't what they did before owning. So a theme of my whole life pretty much has been that I'm the first person in every role in the way that it's created. So I was the first, like, regional, all of these things, right? And every boss I've had or had when I was a lead instructor could not understand why my job took so many hours.
Interesting.
So that's from the top down, right? Top down, I feel that there are a lot of owners who think the role is, or look at the role, not even think, look at the role as more of the face of your studio. This
Mhm.
person's going to teach a bunch of classes. They're going to be the star on the schedule. They're going to be the reason people come in. And then they're going to do these evaluations, but they don't really take much time. They're going to do continuing ed, but that doesn't really take much time because they don't understand how much energy goes into teaching and what you have left over. On the flip side, fitness instructors are really smart and excellent at what they do. and sometimes don't have the business knowledge to be able to talk about like, "Hey, I understand why you think that, but this is why this takes more time than you think." They don't
Advocating.
they don't know how to advocate in the way that someone who doesn't understand fitness can understand.
That makes
It's like
sense,
speaking 2
yeah.
different
Yeah, I would
languages.
say
Yeah.
communicating and, like, I often think and I do enjoy the business aspect, but for me, I was always like, would never wanna own a fitness studio because I do understand the business side of it, and I know that's not for me, and I think it does take a special type of person to do both and do it all well because
Mhm.
they are so different, and I think that's if you are a fitness instructor or someone looking to, like, own a studio, it's so important to think about that what's going to take the passion away because that's what deterred me for so long was I
Mhm.
love teaching. I love doing the evaluations. I love helping clients and teachers advance in their practice, but I don't enjoy dealing with the sales part. I don't enjoy dealing with the bills and keeping the doors open, and it's like you
Yeah.
can do both, but also right having that empathy towards both parties and both aspects because you cannot have a studio that functions without both of those working.
Yeah. There's kind of an old school thought where it's like you should be able to sell anything. Like, I should be able to sell you this remote control. Even if you don't need it, I should be able to sell you it.
Mm,
And that's how you run a business is sales
mhm.
because I should be able to sell you this regardless. I should make you think you need this.
Can you do that?
Maybe, probably. I can do it with things I'm passionate about. I probably couldn't sell you this remote.
Okay, just curious.
But what gets overlooked is selling a bad product. You could sell a bad product 100 million times and get good revenue off of that until people figure out it's a bad product where it crashes and burns.
Mhm,
So, how that relates to the fitness industry is your fitness instructors are your product. The reason that people may come to a Pure Bar, as an example, is for the name Pure Bar. They've heard it, they've heard people talk about it, they've heard people say they like it. They might have heard it from somebody who lives in New York City. They might have heard it from someone who lives in Houston. They might have heard it from someone who lives in LA. And they might live in Arkansas.
I knew you were
And
gonna
they
say
go to a Pure
Arkansas.
Bar.
That's so weird.
I didn't, you knew I was going to say that?
Yeah, I just, like, goes I don't know why that was so bizarre. Okay, anyways,
We're
whoa.
so connected.
Ugh.
Um, So this person in Arkansas goes to a Pure Bar and doesn't have a great experience maybe. Maybe because the instructor team there doesn't have a lead instructor, and so they're not evaluated, so they're not given the support they need, and so they come and they teach whatever they want to because no one's overseeing the compliance of it, and therefore you have someone on the schedule who cannot retain a client, and then you have a rock star on the schedule who's teaching something that isn't Pure Bar, but everybody loves them because they're the most engaging. And that's what happens when you don't have a lead instructor. So then you don't have anyone managing this compliance, but you have someone who can really sell a membership. They're like, listen, you can come unlimited times a month and it's only going to be this much per class if you come 5 times a week and like go through the whole pitch. And then the person comes and they're like, well, I could come 5 times a week, but the instructor I like only comes and teaches once a week. So I'm either quitting or I'm downgrading.
Right,
And so your lead instructor truly is responsible for a lot of the revenue side of the business in turnover. So
without directly selling.
without directly selling.
Yeah.
They are creating and managing the product that people are staying for. They're creating the hook, but the bigger part is retention. Just like anything, it costs more money. It costs more money to hire someone new. It costs more money to get a new member. It costs more money to add something, right? It is less money to retain a member
Mhm.
over time, even if they're paying a discounted membership.
Yeah.
So your lead instructor is responsible for that quality assurance. But a lot of lead instructors are given 5 hours a week to do that.
I was just gonna say to piggyback off that then, because I know that it is difficult to make fitness a full-time thing financially if you are a lot of times in an instructor role, and it's interesting to think about, like, how to bridge that gap because this is really taking a turn also, this whole episode,
Yeah.
but, if you were wondering about this, but, like, that gap of, I want this is a business and I want it to do well and I want it to whatever, but recognizing that, yes, whoever's in charge of the product in this case is the lead instructor, but then it's oftentimes a part time role. So oftentimes this lead instructor has to be working in another capacity, whether that's teaching in another studio, whether that's having another completely unrelated job. So then getting that person to be just as invested as you are as the owner, like bridging that gap. Like what are your thoughts on that?
It is it's such a disservice to the job and to the role and to the business because the first lead instructor role I had didn't really work out. Myself and the owner, I love her. Like I still think that she's a wonderful person, but I couldn't advocate for myself enough yet. And I was so run down because as lead, I was still able to be teaching for other franchises. So I was still teaching 30 classes a week because my lead instructor salary was like $500 a month or something. Like it wasn't sustainable for me to go all in. And it was said to me that it was 5 hours a week, but 5 hours a week is like one evaluation and a schedule change and a sub.
Well, because an evaluation, it's an hour and a half just to physically do it because you have to get there, you have to set up, you have to watch.
Yes.
And then
And then you have to have a conversation after.
yeah, so maybe 2 hours, and then you probably are typing it up and making it all pretty and doing that. That's minimum another hour, minimum.
Yeah.
So,
I think one evaluation I usually correlate to 3 hours of work. So if you give
yeah.
me 5 hours, I can do one evaluation and then you give me one urgent sub need, and that's either me teaching the class or me finding the sub. And then it's schedule maintenance and management. That's all I have time for.
And that's not really feasible in an hour either.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
It
exactly.
but it's really cool that you were able to, like, recognize all those things, and that is such a skill and something that's so important to be able to advocate for yourself and be able to sit down and really look at, like, what you are doing and the time it takes and making sure you're being paid accordingly.
And I think I'm saying all this well now, but at the time I was
Mhm.
just like, I can't do the work. I need more time. I need more hours to work. And the owner was like, well, why? Like I couldn't dictate all of this. Right.
Yeah.
So I ended up going back to grad school because I was like, I got a GTFO of the fitness industry. I got a
What?
GTFO.
That is, like, your theme of life, like, "Oh, things
Yeah.
aren't going well, grad school."
Yeah. Give me a degree and another raise. So
Um,
that led me into the second time that I was a lead instructor. And this was overseeing 5 studios. It grew to 6 while I was under them, and we were opening our 7th when I left. And it was in this role that I learned how to speak about this. And it was in
mm,
this role where I felt that I was valued to a point where I learned how to advocate for the job. I still got questioned. I use this app called Toggle Track, and I like will recommend it to everyone who's having a hard time advocating because I would you press start and you put what you're doing. So it'd be like evaluation. Press start on this timer. Once I was on the evaluation, I press stop. Then I would press start on schedule maintenance. So it was literally just me pressing buttons
oh,
of what I was doing. So then I could bring this data to the owner and say, right now I'm teaching 18 classes a week and I'm expected to do 20 hours of admin because 18 classes a week is typically like about 21 hours of work ish, depending on how you lay it out. It was across
yeah.
different studios, so I could reteach programming. Um, and I said, now all these things are taking me 25 hours a week to do admin wise at this point. And this isn't even starting on our wishes of what we want me to do, right? Because this didn't include hiring, onboarding, continuing education, creating resources. They wanted me to, create class programs for every month that people could pull from if they wanted inspiration. It There was so much left off the plate. And that's when I was starting to advocate for it. And when I went to this master's program, the reason I stayed in the industry is because I realized that there's so much information that doesn't make it down to fitness professionals. So much information that can make their job easier and make them better at their job. And I had this new passion lit for myself, which is it started in the lead role that I was able to integrate some of that, where I was teaching like science principles or like psychology, right? People's favorite word is their name. Say their name in class. Say it 3
Mhm,
times. People will respond well to you. Think about the music you're picking, the level of the volume for your mic versus your music, how you cue. If you say, don't let your shoulders come to your ears, or if you say, lengthen out of the crown of the head, those are saying the
mhm.
same things, but one is going to leave someone walking away feeling like you nitpicked them, and one is going to leave someone walking away feeling lengthened
It's
and
not what you
fun.
say, it's how you say it.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So I was starting to implement those into it. And I think that's what franchise owners who have lead instructors, like that's the miss of the gap. You could be an awesome lead instructor doing a bare minimum job for maybe 10 hours a week, but you're only doing what's expected and you're not actually growing the product.
Mhm.
When when I stepped into this role and I started doing these things, we saw revenue grow like I don't wanna say the wrong number, but I don't remember the exact number. I think it was like we grew revenue 30% at every studio by adding my job,
Wow. That's so
and
much.
that's the proof in the pudding.
Yeah.
It's so much, but I'm sure that my boss at the time, the franchise owner, I'm sure that she had to, like, shovel out a little bit more money than she was comfortable with at the time to see that return on investment.
I mean, that's what it all of it is. It's the ROI and, like, you have to spend money to make money. That's just, like, business
Yes.
101 from someone who has no knowledge, no formal education in business, you know?
Well, I remember when you were moving, like, you and Garrett were moving back to Texas for interim between season,
Mhm.
and you were interviewing for lead roles. Like, I
Mhm.
remember being on the phone with you talking about this, and you said that the boss you were working for was going to allow you to be lead, and then when you would leave to do your other job in New York for 3 or 4 months, you would come back and you could do it again.
Mhm.
And I remember being like, "How in the world does that work for the business?" Not that I don't think you could do it because 'cause you're
Yeah.
phenomenal and amazing, and anyone would be very, very lucky to have you in that role, but that's a quarter of
Mhm.
time that your instructors don't have consistent support. Whether it be because you're training someone, it's still not you. You know,
For
there's
sure.
this miss in the business, but I don't know if that was identified or how that was identified or how that was planned
Yeah.
to work. I was, like, astounded that someone would make that choice.
Yeah. I think when I was there, there was, I think, too far ahead sometimes, and
Yeah.
like you said, like, it's different than having my physical presence. Like, yes, I can give you as much resources and give you as much structure as I can. We did when I was in that role, I did have I don't remember the timeline, but 1 to 2 people under me. So I was able to give them the ropes a little bit, and give them the
Mhm.
knowledge I had. So it was like I was at the top and then there was 1 for each studio. So that helped a little bit. But like you said, I mean, there's so much, and I was still learning in that moment too. I think going from New York
Yeah.
City and seeing how that is operated when there's 12 studios and it's like a well-oiled machine, trying to transfer that into other studios that are already established, and it's a lot hard, they say it's a lot harder to break a habit than to start a new habit. That
Mhm.
idea of trying to, like, restructure everything, and I found for me, moving from a city where people are grinding, people are performers, and they wanna work and they wanna hustle to, not a huge city in that regard, it was hard to find people that wanted to grow.
Mhm.
And, like, especially a lot of the people I was in charge of, that wasn't their full-time thing, like, this was their side thing, and people gave what they could give, but you can only do so much. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
trying to find that balance, so I think that was the hard part, for sure, was
Yeah.
like, you can't make someone want to get better. Like, they have to want it themselves, and they have to want to, and people don't wanna change. It's hard to change for sure. So, that was
It
definitely
is.
an experience, but I was in Houston, then you moved to Austin,
Yeah.
not very long
I
after.
remember calling you when I was moving.
I was so excited. I was so excited when you were moving, even though, I
Yeah.
mean, we see each other, but, like, it's better than
It's still
nothing.
3 hours
It's
away,
yeah,
2 and a
it's still
half.
a drive, but how so you 'cause you were liking your role then in Chicago.
Yeah, I was.
So, how did we tell us about how we made the move, how
Yeah.
we got out of that?
S So, I really like, my one of my bosses, I guess, she asked me in one of our meetings, like, "Well, what is your dream job?" And I said, "Well, this is currently my dream job. Like, this is what I'd worked for." Back to Pittsburgh. Why I moved back to Chicago was so that I could become a regional lead in Chicago of this brand. And I have goosebumps saying that, but it really was because I knew even back then that I wanted to have greater impact on a whole network creating education, but that I couldn't get that role, like at a corporate role,
Mhm.
without doing this first. I had to
Yeah.
prove the you have to prove what's in the pudding, right? Like I can't tell you right now, like, oh my God, you know what? I make an awesome lemon cashew cream sauce without like you ever having experienced my cooking before for you to believe me,
Yeah, for
right?
sure, and, like,
All
having
big.
those numbers to prove it too. That's helpful.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I loved my job, but I wanted more. Like I wanted to really be focusing on the education. I wanted to grow as a manager and a leader by having people under me. And I had 50 instructors under me, but I
Okay.
didn't have any other lead. Like I was a regional
Just
lead. It was
you.
just me, 6 studios, 50 instructors, every sub need, but I didn't have any authority over managers. And I really wanted to, what you just said, like relay the information I had to other
Mhm.
leads so that I didn't, a business's success or consistency shouldn't depend on one person. And I wanted that. Anyway, my boss at the time didn't share that there were plans to expand the business past 7. And she had always said to me that after 7, then I could get help. But what I heard is, I'll never get help because you're not going past 7.
That's fair.
So, and it was something that I think now, even when I said that to her, she's like, I didn't think about
How that
that because in my mind, I already knew that she now has 10 studios. Like she already knew there was going to be 10 studios, but she hadn't yet looped me into that. And so I was at the top of my ceiling. I'm 28 turning 29. No, 27 turning 28. And there was no like path up for me, it seemed from my point of view. And I had a stressful day, a stressful week at work where not everyone's going to love you in management roles. And I had someone who very much let me know that they did not love me in this management role. And it was someone that it just like really hurt. So I opened up my laptop and I was like, I've wanted to live somewhere warm my whole life, my whole 28 years of being alive. And I
Mhm.
haven't
Great.
been able to. Yes, I was turning 29. Okay. So I was like, you know what? San Diego and Austin, Texas. So those are 2 places that I've wanted to move to in my lifetime. I'm just going to see what happens. And I open my computer and I see, or LinkedIn, and I see a job posting and it says F45 Pilates studio manager. And I'm like, that has got to be spam. There's no way that's a real job. I knew what F45 was. I hadn't taken it before. It definitely wasn't Pilates. So why would they be saying Pilates studio manager? I clicked into the role. I was like, you know what? This sounds like an interesting role, but it's still had my lease until March. Like there were so many different things where I was like, it's not the right time. 2 months later, same mindset. Something bad happened. Like it was a really bad week at work. And I opened it back up and that job posting had gone away and it came back. This time it still said F45 Pilates studio manager, but in the description, it had FS8 listed.
Mm,
So I opened up Instagram as all of us who love to do research look to
of
first.
course. Search engine of choice.
Look up FS8 and I see that it's a blend of Pilates, tone, and yoga. And it's essentially everything that I'm teaching non-compliant at the studios I worked for, like based on corporate. That's what FS8 was doing. That's what the marketing was showing. It was with reformers that were a little bit prettier than the ones I was working on.
Mhm.
Um,
We love aesthetic.
and it just seemed like a really cool opportunity. So I applied, still didn't, it was October around this point, and I
I
still
mean,
had my lease until March.
this is a step up from grad school. Like, at
It is.
least you didn't go back to grad school. I'm just saying.
And here's the thing though, Gab.
Oh, no.
I also looked into PhD programs. I was like,
Oh.
I could go to a PhD and UT here in Austin has one.
Mm,
So I was like, that's kind of a good, like a doctoral program's 4 years. So like you want to make sure you like where you're living
because
for
she
it.
can't just move and transition into a new role. She also needs to go get her doctorate. Okay, cool.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Right. There's never enough to be done.
No.
So I get onto my first interview the next day, I think. And the people interviewing me were in Australia. And I knew it was an Australian-based company, but this is an Austin role. So
Mhm.
it's where I really learned that it was an HQ role. This was a corporate role for FS8. I would be opening their first flagship studio as a corporate studio in the United States. There was only,
So
I think there
cool.
was 3 open in the US at this time, and they were just like in a different place, or how it happened was different. And I'd be opening in our version 2 of FS8 because there was a version 1 that they were switching from. So went through this interview process. It was 6 weeks and they were going to relocate me. And I was going to have the job, and I had talked to them like, I'm happy to be a studio manager. I've done these leadership roles. I obviously know what I'm doing within
Teaching.
studio,
Yeah.
talking about like revenue and instructors and like what has to get done. But my big goal is to be in education because I just see the opportunities here in corporate settings of fitness to get better education down to the trainers to have better products more consistently. So accepted the job December. I think I signed my letter December 16th and I started December 18th virtually,
Oh my goodness.
but also because we close over the holidays. So like there was no training that happened. Like, I was really starting in January, but it was kinda like, if I didn't sign this now, I wouldn't start till mid-January, and we didn't
Also,
have that time to give.
how cool, because it's just proof in the pudding of, like, where we were just talking about how it's hard to make it your full-time thing, and, like, they
Yeah,
literally were paying to move you. Like, that
yeah,
to me is just not even heard of in the fitness world, which is cool to see where it is going, and hopefully can continue to go in that way, but, like, that is, like, such a
yeah.
flex.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, and
really.
it's like it goes back to too, like, I'd come to Austin in 2016, going into my senior year of college, and I did this road trip with my mom to see where I wanted to move to, and Carolyn, same Pilates instructor, she grew up in Austin. So
Kismet.
there was just things here that it just felt connected to, like, similar to how I felt connected to Carolyn. And so I came here originally in 2016 to, like, see if I wanted to move for dance, and then I'm moving here for a Pilates job that's still connected to Western, like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's where I first started doing reformer Pilates.
So
So
cool.
I moved down into this current apartment that you are seeing the messiness in the background of, um, in January. 3 weeks later, I think, I signed sight unseen, moved down with my dog, who's also right behind me, and, we opened this well, I moved in. 2 weeks later, I got my delivery of my stuff, which was a whole pain in the butt.
But
I
gosh.
went to your wedding
In that time,
within 3
yes.
weeks of moving here
Great.
and came back and opened the studio in 3 weeks. Like, we literally did a pre-open campaign in 3 weeks. We sold out 333 intro offers, which are basically like foundation
Oh my god,
memberships, but
that's
different.
so many.
333 in 3 weeks.
That is
We sold out our 2nd tier in 2 hours.
wait, but can we pause for a second? Because this is before
Yeah,
anyone's even taken a class or had the
correct.
you're
Nope.
selling memberships before someone even experienced the product. That is, we need to do a whole another episode on this.
Yeah.
That is
It was
insane.
insane.
That's insane.
But people are excited about Pilates and reformer and, like, the fusion of 3 modalities.
Really
It
cool.
just it was really cool. It was some of the hardest work in the least amount of time. Um, and then we had a running studio, and then I was studio manager for pretty much exactly a year from when the studio opened, and then I got promoted into this role, global education manager, and it's not only across FS8, it's across the other Pilates brand, Vora, as well, which is, like, a bigger dream. It's a dream come true of a role that I had my sights set on when I was, like, 23 and getting the certification, and it's even bigger of a dream, like 2 Pilates brands is crazy, and they're global brands. Like, we've had studios in Singapore and Dubai and Australia and the UK and Canada and the US, and it's like we haven't even hit 100 studios yet.
I mean, talk about growth. Like, I don't know how much more you can ask for, in the
Yeah,
realm of wanting to be able to grow and expand, which is so, so cool that you're able to do that.
it
And
is
it's
so
like
cool.
really all came together, which is wild. So,
Mhm. And now I get to advocate with all those things we just talked about with lead instructor and instructors. We call them head trainers and trainers in our brands, but I'm advocating for those roles every single day of my job. It's what I've been wanting to do. I'm creating education that will best support them. I'm leading trainings that will best support the studio's opening. I'm talking to franchise owners and, like, yes, I know about business, but I'm learning so much more about business every single day that I talk with them, that I they're in different parts of the world. There's different lifestyles. Like you said, the relocation from New York to Houston, it's a different mindset.
mhm.
So you hire differently,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and it's very interesting.
And, like, that's such a skill to be able to, like, adapt and understand the market that you're in and understand what each specific studio needs, which, gosh, we could talk about this for so long, which I'm already
Forever.
like, "Oh, I wanna get so much further into this," but for sake of time, I
Yes.
I you're gonna we're everyone, don't worry, she's coming back on, like, tomorrow, I feel, because I have so much more I wanna get into with you, but just for the sake of today, and
Mhm.
I just reflecting on our conversation and just, like, knowing you, I think you're just one of the best examples of pivoting and listening and trusting that
Yeah.
you're gonna figure out what you're meant to do. Because, how we joked earlier about you're trying to go do this and that, but it's like, nope, we're gonna come back to this. Like, what in all these moves, in all these pivots, in trying to figure out, like, what you were meant to do, like, what is what's your secret to being able to do that? And like advice you would give to someone who is
Oh
afraid to
boy.
listen into that. Like, I feel like there's something else, but like logically that doesn't make sense. Or like, 5-year-old me, that's not what they wanted. Like, how do we let go of that and just allow yourself to embrace that part?
First of all, thank you. Second of all, that's a great question because my answer, I think, is just tied to who I am. So I don't know how to replicate that to outward. When you feel that thing, you feel that idea, that inkling, that like passion, that first, like, maybe I should do this. Just go one more layer, see where it's coming from.
Mm,
Letting go, we said we could talk about ego for probably 3 episodes, but
yeah.
like letting go of your ego is the biggest part of that.
Mm, mm-hmm.
It's the biggest part of it because you might have an inkling to I have a friend right now actually who has been very successful her whole career in working in like environmentally aware businesses, right? That's kind of what their role's been. She has this huge passion right now to go work in a coffee shop. Quit her job, go work in a coffee shop. And I was telling her, I'm like, you have to listen to that
Yeah.
because there's something there. And she's not fulfilled at work right now. So like there's something there about this coffee shop that you don't know the next thing that's going to happen. And if your ego is stopping you because you feel some type of way about saying you're a barista, who cares?
Yeah.
Nobody is paying attention to you in that way, you know?
Yeah. No one cares as much as you do.
If I had not moved back to Chicago because I thought in my ego mind, moving back to Chicago was failing
Mm,
because it was my hometown.
yep.
Why can't I make it out elsewhere? If I had listened to that and pushed through in Pittsburgh, I would have likely never met my boss who gave me this business knowledge and allowed me to see how instructors actually do drive revenue to then have these conversations at work,
Like
right?
everything happening for a reason. Yeah.
Everything happens for a reason. So when you have that little like tap on the shoulder,
Yeah.
check it out.
I mean, it's like I always say that if something's on your heart or on your mind, it's because it's already yours or like it's there for a reason and
Yeah.
not it's that like tapping of like, "Oh, stop trying to be a professional dancer." Like you're meant to do something
Yeah.
else that's going to be more fulfilling for you and more impactful. Like you will be able to have more impact through this. Not that you couldn't as you could I mean, you could do literally anything you wanted to do, I'm sure. Like what's going to actually fulfill you and what success looks like for you in that way.
Mhm.
One of my last few questions for you, I have so many, but as you're I know we've talked a lot of like the business side of it, but I feel like you are so wellness like infused. Again, you are the one who brought me into this world as well. What are like other ways as you're grinding and you're growing as in your professional career? I feel like you also value, that full picture we talked about from college, like that you have to have a social life. You have to take care of your body. You have to be working out for yourself. Like, what are ways in Austin? Because I feel like this felt more not final, never say never, but this move to me, I'm like, you're here for a second. Like, you're setting down some roots. So, like, what are ways if someone's in that stage? Like, what do you do to kind of branch out outside of work and let yourself have an outlet?
Mm. Yeah, I agree with you. This move feels so I'm about to live in Austin longer than I lived in Pittsburgh, and I feel like I'm just getting started here. Like
Mhm.
it doesn't even feel like that much time has passed. And part of that is because I moved to a place with a lot of like-minded people to myself, you know? In Austin, so many people are fitness minded. So there's run clubs and walk clubs and wellness events. Like there is this thing called Coffee and Chill, and you
Ooh,
go and you like get coffee and you cold plunge and there's a DJ, but it's like a party, but it's like a yes, you can drink, but it's like pretty much a
wellness.
sober party.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, that's so cool.
And that is so Austin coded and it's so Allison coded, you know?
Mhm.
And making friends here, like I have friends outside of work that I've met through my building, which is awesome. Like that's partially why I love apartment living because you just meet people. But I will say most of my friends here are from work
Mm,
because my work is so it's same way that like dance friends happen. Like I'm so passionate about what I do. And that's how I've made friends here. But I also will say that I had to really focus on what I knew, like what routines I knew would set me up to be the best version of
yeah.
myself and showing up at work or in personal relationships. So for me, that's It's always been working out. It will likely always be working out. It is not hard for me to go to the gym. You know, when they say, like, sometimes you just have to get yourself to do 5 minutes,
Mhm.
that's how I feel about, like, cleaning. Like, I don't feel that way about going to the gym. I can go if I don't feel like going to the gym, I'll be like, "Oh, it's just an hour," and then I'll be there for 3.
Yeah.
It just
Wow.
also me and you were both, we both go to the same gym, and there's so many options of things you can do at that gym, like
Yeah.
going into the sauna and the pool and the steam
Yeah.
room, and, like, it's
It's a whole
fun.
party. You can just
It's a whole party.
yeah, you could waste some time for sure. Not waste, but spend.
Yes.
Waste,
Yes.
spend, however you wanna look at it. That's so funny. Oh my god.
So, I'm like people will make fun of me because I go to bed at 8:30 and I wake up at 4:30 and I go to the gym and I do all these things, but it's because that's how, 1, it's a social thing, so I'm around people who are doing the same thing that I may not know their name, but, like, we definitely know each other kind of a thing.
Mhm.
That's gym relationships. And then I work from home and I go into the office, like, I do a mix of both things, and then I go to events that are in town that fit what I want to be doing. So, when I first moved to Pittsburgh, I think I was going to any event that, like, had a category that could maybe be interesting or I felt like I
Mm.
should be interested in.
Yeah.
In Austin, if there's, like, a meetup to do, like, a tequila tasting, that's not me. I'm
Yeah.
not very interested in that. But there's a bar over here that does, half off espresso martinis on Monday
With
nights when, like, The Bachelor's playing, like, I'll go do that. And so that's where
yeah.
you find people that you actually wanna spend time with because you're doing like-minded activities.
Oh, that's so true. Not just like and just being intentional with like what you're I think that's anything, being intentional with what you're spending your time doing or who you're spending your
Yes.
time with. Yay. Oh, so many good things. Um,
Yeah.
if there's anything else you wanted to touch on, I can ask you my closing questions of what you've been kicking it with lately.
I'll go one more place, and then I'm excited to your for your questions. Is
Okay.
that good?
Yeah. Yeah, let's
Okay.
hear it.
So, kind of a accumulation of all of this. I put this at the bottom of the doc. I was like, I want to talk about this and I don't want to forget.
Oh, yes, our dog.
I Yes, I just did High Rocks. And if you haven't looked up High Rocks, you should go look it up after this podcast if
She
you don't
did
know what
ask
it
me to
is.
do it with her, and I was too scared. Okay.
I'll get you next time. But you do 8K run. So you do 1K of running and then you do one fitness station. So there's 8 fitness stations and then you're running, which is about 5 miles of running for the conversion. And I did my first solo one this past weekend back in Chicago at Navy Pier. It was so fun, so hard. And by the end of this thing, you're doing wall balls. You have to do 100 wall balls to end, which is insane.
I
That's
can't.
an insane ask, but that's the whole point, right? And apparently, right before I finished, there was a woman who hadn't done it in 2.5 years. What I deduced from stalking her on social after, she like had a kid and was focused on that side of her life and was coming back to High Rocks. I think she might have set a world record, but she definitely placed first in the pro division, which I was not in the pro division. I was in the open division. I finished my wall balls. I run up. It seems like there's a lot of people at the finish line. I don't really know why, but I'm like, yeah, I finished. I was proud of myself, whatever. And later, my mom told me that this person had finished right before me. Like the person before me that won the women's pro finished right before me.
Oh,
And I had no idea. And what I reflected on with that and what I would like to leave your listeners with is I didn't notice because I wasn't focused on competing with anybody. I was focused on me. I was focused on doing my best, which was 40 minutes longer than this person did, you know? I was focused on showing up for me, achieving my goals, and trusting myself that I'm on my own journey. And I think I've done really well at that throughout my career of just doing what I want to do. And sometimes I have a hard time with the ego, like pulling back and being like, it's okay if I'm not a CEO at 31.
maybe at 32.
But if I maybe at 32, but if I keep comparing myself to others, it's only going to slow me down, right? If
Mhm.
I took the time at High Rocks to acknowledge what was happening around me, I probably would have gotten down on myself or tried to speed through something and got injured that would set me back longer. So just like when you're considering your career changes, when you're considering your fitness routine, everyone's a beginner at some point. Everyone has to start somewhere and just stop comparing yourself to others because it's going to get you it also feels way better.
Amen to that. Like blinders,
Yeah.
listening to what feels good. And I think that's what's cool, bringing it all the way back to college. Like you've always been like that. Where like for me, I'm like, oh, what's the cool thing to do? Like, what should I be doing? Instead of being like, what do I want to do? What is going to be best for me? Instead of, like worrying about
Yeah,
it feels so much better. And it comes with age. So if you're younger than us
it does.
listening to this, just do it now. I promise. Like, it's hard to do in the moment, but you'll just be so, so far ahead. But I love that story because that's so real and so cool that you're doing that because I don't have the balls to do that. But also,
It's
it's in
something.
you. It's in you, the fitness, the challenge. But I love
Mhm.
that. Okay. Final questions.
Okay.
Tell us what you've been kicking it with lately.
Okay, it's so cheesy and generic and, like, me being 31 years old saying this, but it's stretching before bed.
Okay. But I need to stretch.
It's like everyone tells you to stretch all the time, and
Like stretching now as I'm listening. Oh, cracking.
yeah, I, like, started doing this where I'm like, I'm just gonna this is one of those things where I'm like, I only have to do, like, 2 stretches, and, like, that'll check my box. Of course, I end up doing it for longer once I'm doing it,
It feels good once you're in it.
but, like, I sleep better. I sleep so much better. I have
Bro.
an Aura Ring, and I get, like, triple crown days when I stretch before bed, and that's the only thing I change. It's
Wow.
insane. My body functions, I'm not sore, I feel less anxious. Like, I have been kicking it with stretching before bed, and I
You're
should have listened
inspiring
to this when I
me.
was, like, 21. Yeah.
You are inspiring me. I'm gonna try that tonight, maybe. Maybe not. It's a
Do it.
Saturday right now, but like maybe Sunday.
Just do,
Realistic.
like, some spine twist and, like, maybe
Oh.
a quad stretch. You'll just start it truly everything to me
No,
right
it's one
now.
of those things that once you start doing it, you're like, "Oh, this actually kind of feels good. Maybe I'll keep going." I love that. So just like
Mhm.
starting that cue. What are we kicking to
Yeah.
the curb?
Well, this weekend I'm doing a social media cleanse. So that's what I'm kicking to the curb right now. My scrolling, I'm 1 day in and I've noticed that like every time I pee, I go to check
Mhm.
Instagram.
Oh, that's
Like
cool.
I'm mindlessly scrolling and so as if I needed to be more productive with my time, I would
Right.
just like to keep my headspace a little bit more.
No, actually, you say that, and I've been like that too. They say that when listen to some podcast about anytime you open your phone or like you're making a million micro decisions, like even just like opening your phone. So like,
Mm.
and noticing, I think even just noticing when I'm picking up my phone and being like, oh, like I'll literally sometimes now I set a timer. I'm like, okay, I have a random amount of time. I have 11 minutes to complete this task. And I will find myself sometimes just picking up my phone and then I'm like, ah, and then I put it back down. But it's just so just like
Yes.
integrated. It's just habit. So I love that of just like, I've been trying also. I haven't like completely got rid of it, but I'm like, actually, I don't need to look at that right now. Like just even catching yourself. So
Yeah.
I love that. My last question, brief. If you have advice for dancers or anyone looking to get into the fitness world, what would your like number one piece of advice be for them?
Oh boy.
I know this wasn't on our doc.
Look for it wasn't. It wasn't, but it depends on what you wanna do. There are so many low barrier options to get into the fitness industry, right? Like, I think Pure Barre actually probably started this maybe first in the industry where you can get certified and, like, pay back your time.
Mm,
Like, they'll kind of, sponsor you through it, I
yeah.
suppose, is the way to put it. So that you don't always have to pay for a certification if that's a struggle that you're in, because that is a lot of dancers are like, I want to teach Pilates, but a 500-hour comprehensive certification is $5,000, or it
Yeah.
was when I did it. I think it's 6,000 now. Um, it's expensive. So one, either save for what you want to do, or two, look for the low barrier options. Solid Core is another good example of something that does that. Where I work, FS8 and Vora FS8 more so has this low barrier to entry. For many people, we have a certification that is low cost and low hours to help bridge that gap. But do the research for what you want to do. Don't
Mm,
just get a certification because you want to start teaching fitness.
yeah.
But if you know that like cycle calls out for you, call studios and have the conversation about
Yeah.
what it's going to take. If you work the desk, oftentimes if you work the desk for like 3 months or something, they'll then start to pay for that certification because that's growing within their business.
Totally.
So look for those low barrier to entry
Yeah. And
opportunities.
like, yeah, not just doing something to do it. And my mom always told me it's always a no if you don't ask. So just like being transparent, I think is so helpful to like, hey, this is the situation I'm in. I'd love to do this is my goal one day. Like, how can we do that? I love that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm so motivated and inspired. How can everyone stay connected with you? Where can they find you?
Follow me on Instagram. I will be back on. It's only a weekend class.
By the time this is airing in a few weeks, so you'll be back. It's fine.
Exactly. My Instagram, I'm sure you'll put it in the show notes too, but it's Livin, Livin, with a period, and then with Allison, and I spell Allison 2 L's and an I.
Sorry, I've been calling her Al this whole time. That's just like what it is.
That's
We used to do
okay.
Allie, so
No, thank you. But Al or Allison's great, but that's my Instagram. That's my professional Instagram where I post about this kind of stuff and talk on DMs and whatever else.
oh,
And then my email's in my bio. So if you have a more one-on-one question, I'm always open to a conversation.
yeah, we love it. Oh my gosh, thank you for coming on. Thank you for all of your insight. I already can't wait to have you back and talk more. And thank you guys for listening. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Let us know what you liked. If there's anything specific you want to hear more about, especially from Allison. But yeah, can't wait to kick it with you guys next time. Love you. Thanks for being here.